have you ever seen this car and this brand here in Europe? This here is the logo of Geely, and you might know Geely from being a mother company of Volvo, Polestar, Zeekr, Lynk & Co, Lotus, 50% of Smart together with Mercedes, and also as the owner of the London taxi company. And now, because the other brands were more focusing on a little bit higher pricing, premium and so on, they also want to attack the volume market. For example, against Volkswagen, Skoda, Seat, Renault, Ford, and so on, with the Geely brand itself. This here is the Geely E5. They're also investing a lot in Germany, actually. Here, the European headquarters behind us for the operations here from the Geely brand. They also have an engineering center here, and we're going to find out today with their first volume electric model under the Geely brand for the European market. How good is it? And also for a price between 38 and 43,000 euros, which sounds pretty attractive. What do you get for that price? And do the volume brands, the existing ones, really have to vary? We'll find out with Thomas Nautegefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the Geely E5, or sometimes was called in other markets EX5, here in Europe E5. You can see here LED technology in the lighting, very clean design in the front, not too much screaming out. They want to be, let's say, somewhat conservative. They want a car that's just usable for everyone and not going in one or the other direction too much. The length here is at 4.62 meters, 182 inches. We have 18 to 19 inch wheels. This is the higher trim with 19 inch wheels then in this case. And batteries, some markets offer 50 kilowatt, but in Europe they want to attack either with a 60 kilowatt or here the little bit higher one, 68 kilowatt LFP batteries, 11 kilowatt AC charging, and up to 135 kilowatt DC charging. We only have a 10 to, not a 10 to 80, but a 30% to 80 figure, and that is around 20 minutes at this moment. Soon maybe we can find out more. Here the door handles are, because the car is unlocked, then they stand out, otherwise they are flush integrated, but here, then they are manually when they are actually standing out. And here you can already hear, it's a very good door closing sound. And the interesting thing is, here in the rear as well, that they have learned that from Volvo actually, because, you know, decades ago they all have already purchased Volvo as the brand, and then they say, let's learn like the safety technology and also how a door is closed and so on from Volvo, and now applied also to volume models in the lower price segment. Light strip goes all the way through, a modern look, and you can see that they market it here as the E5 then here in Europe. This one then, as I said, an all-electric model. They also launched the Star Ray. This is then the plug-in hybrid model. If you want to see that as well at a later stage, we can also give an inside look to that one very soon. Then let's take a look under the hood, see if there's a frunk or not. Super hot temperatures here today in Germany, the heat wave in Europe, and that's why we're also finding here a place in the shade. So it doesn't have a frunk. See, they use the space somewhat. Yeah, maybe a little bit would have been possible, but see, there's not much height on top of that. Climate compressor there hidden underneath as well. And even more interesting, of course, will be what can we expect on the interior with that price, and of course soon to come the extensive driving segment. This is always front-wheel drive, 218 horsepower, and it accelerates in about 7.5 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. And we're starting the interior with Leah because I want to show you a special feature which is in that segment very rare. Here, look at that. The passenger seat actually has this calf rest which you can fold up like this, and then you have this, the Chinese like to call it zero gravity seats basically. You can of course then lean. Perfect. Yeah, your legs shouldn't be too long. I think for Leah is still fine. The only thing that doesn't work here, you cannot put the seat higher. That's only with the driver's seat. Here, by the way, the key fob is in this nice microfiber cover. And you can also like click in here and open again. The ignition is on at the moment, by the way. So this is where you pay like 250 euro extra at Porsche for something like that. Then I already talked about the door closing sound. Inside of the doors here, everything is soft touch at the inside. Here also softer for your elbow. Let's see if it can be a little bit softer. Yeah, maybe it should be a little bit softer. Nice here, there's galvanization and the metal knurling Bentley style alike for the inside of the doors. The only thing here is then our hard pack in the lower part. Then we have the steering wheel. It's also leatherette material. It's very soft, feels nice. Still some real buttons. For example, here you press this button basically twice, and then you can deactivate it like a hotkey, all of the annoying assistance system if you want to. And also, for example, here, selection on the left side steering wheel, right side also do something in the instruments to scroll them through. Classic for the turning indicators and wipers. Right side you would put in the gears. Small digital instruments, they always stay in that place. Flyme sound system, by the way, we already tested it and it is astonishingly good actually. I was surprised by that. Then the seats, you always get this high-grade leatherette. So it's animal-free material, perforation, super soft, you can see it here. Also then here, the seating depth here, so this is a very high quality. So they basically learn from their premium brands in that respect. And the perforation here is also connected with the ventilation. So you get heated seats, ventilated seats, panoramic roof, soon more deals to that. And even the low trims are already well spec'd, but this one here, the higher trim, and honestly, because the extra price for the high trim is not that much, it's a couple of thousand euros, and most people will probably go for the highest spec then here of the Geely E5, and with that, you're still at 43,000 euros. And you seriously get like equipment that is usually in premium cars at like double the price. Headroom here with 189, 6'2". There's enough headroom left. The driver's seat here can be moved also up and down in height like this, whereas, as I said, the passenger seat has this extension in the front, but you cannot move it up and down, sadly. But is very good seating comfort indeed because of the high-grade leatherette and this, like the ergonomics of the seat itself. Steering wheel, I'm happy to do that manual, up and down, in and out, and it also feels okay when you move it up and down, just like the, maybe it sounds when you like hit the edge of that or something, but that's totally fine. You have here also still manual control of the air vents. You even get a head-up display here in this higher trim, by the way. Now to the cockpit of the Geely E5. One thing, by the way, I forgot to show here, the windows, they don't have lamination, but they're actually quite thick. So looking forward to the noise comfort on the German Autobahn very soon. So there are a lot of impressive things here. For example, also large 15.4-inch touchscreen right there, and also how the middle console is designed here. Here, everything is soft touch right here, and also the surface here feels quite nice. Manual volume jog with a clicking sound. This is how Audi AC units used to sound, you know, and they have it then here for the volume selection. And now look at that. I said that this is here the volume jog, yes, but it comes even better here. When I hold it, then I can configure what I want to do with that as well when I click it. Not only change the background image, I can even change the temperature or the fan speed. Of course, that is the temperature then. And that means that just by that volume, and I click it once, and then I turn it. Oh, wait a minute, click once. I think you have to wait a little bit until this is gone. So this disappeared now, then click once, there it is. And then you can actually change the temperature with this clicking knob. So they extra implemented here intentionally also a Thomas feature.
Only for Audi.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Wow, that's cool. So you can still get your Audi AC clicking sound metal nerd climate unit here in this car. That's impressive. If you have long legs like I do, like here, it's cut out here on that side of the middle console, and I really have to sit quite far away, then it works. But as soon as I would move a little bit closer here, then my knee hits this area. So for tall European drivers, this is something they could still fix, because that's also the story about this vehicle and also about whole Geely. So they have the development center here also then, and then they have adapted the steering setup and suspension setup for the European market. And then the Chinese headquarters found out, wait a minute, that's the better setup overall. So they will then now also take the European setup, and the next cars that are built also then worldwide, Chinese mainland market and also the other Asian markets will also then receive this European knowledge and setup. That's a very interesting aspect as well. Yeah, but that's something here with the knee for tall legs that could still be fixed. But the quality of the middle console is really good. Also here, then once again, soft material, a lot of space in underneath. This is inductive charging pad. Yes, but it's not ventilated, so the phone might overheat there. You can charge it with the cable underneath. The USB-A is for connection and charging. USB-C is only charging. So a USB-C connection and charging outlet, that would be cool in my opinion as well. A lot of space in here also underneath. There's a classic glove box right here. And on the top part is also, this is not that soft. This is really soft. This is semi-soft, and this is then rather hard pack here. You can see the screen itself has a good quality. You can pick different schemes. For example, when I press this button here, I can also do something in the infotainment system and switch through these schemes. And so very beautiful schemes here to pick on. Yeah, but I think this one was fitting today's temperatures, because it's 35 degrees Celsius here in Germany. As I said, European heat in the shadow, 35 degrees. That's very rare, but this will only become a thing more and more in Europe with climate change, definitely. And so that's in the 90s in Fahrenheit. And here in the lower part, you can directly control the temperature, for example. I prefer physical dials. You press it, and then you can click seats, and then here you can change the ventilation right there. And the ventilation will get even more important, that feature, over time. Sometimes I've found the menu a little bit too complicated. I say this, Leah says, oh, it's totally easy. Once again, maybe I'm too old now for this, I don't know. This is more like this classic logic of the new electric vehicles, that you have all different features on the left side: Eco, Comfort, Sport, Driving Mode, and so on. And you also have Apple CarPlay integration. Looks like this, also using all the way out of the screen. And the important thing is that everything from the screen is also really quick. So you click something. Good camera here. Yeah, good camera system as well, good quality. So you click something and it directly happens. And that is not always with all cars, you know. So once again, then when you compare it to the volume manufacturers, that's really a problem for them, because also the screen is faster and has more functions and so on. By the way, nice material on top, but cup holders, they are not that adaptive. So maybe they could be tuned with this adaptive dot design. So from everything we see here statically, we really have to say the classic volume manufacturers, they really have to worry about it, because you get the full package here. Everything is, well built and so on. You really have to search for something which you can criticize. And the only thing I really found that the cup holders are not ideal underneath here. And there's also, let's say, not a very pleasant smell here. It's a completely new car, and new cars sometimes smell pleasant or less pleasant and so on. It's maybe something they could work on. So we have to see also if it dissolves over time and so on. But this is really like the only two minor things. With the knee position for long legs, 3 things then maybe I could find here. Everything else, in contrast to that competitor vehicles, you can probably find many more things which could be executed in a better way. Most and foremost also like how fast the infotainment is and so on. Then the rear seats, rear doors, also soft touch here on the top part, here as well for your elbow. Also in the metal galvanization here, this knurling for the rear window lever, hard pack in the lower part, but still, for this segment then here, for this price, is astonishing, the quality here. Let's see. Then the seat here, same high-grade leatherette material, also good seating depth, ISOFIX outside, also once again with a nice perforation that at least in the rear you also have passive cooling. Then here, you can fold down this is not adaptive though, but the quality itself is good. You have either this more upright seating position or cargo position, like this is also fine, or the more laid back position, so you can choose that. Headroom here, it's no problem, 1A9, 6 for 2. Then you have enough legroom as well. Remember, it's not the longest car, not a short one, but still good usage of space, everything flat using that EV platform. So it's also then comfortable here in the rear. You have seat heating, 2 level for the rear seats, and USB-A and USB-C charging. So I think this is very good, the usage of space overall, and that you also get comfort here in the rear. And then we have this roof as well. You can see when it's really hot, you can apply this shade. This is, by the way, not in all versions, like the base version would come without it. Then when I open it, you can see there's the shade, but there's also the real glass roof, so you can still actually open it and leave some fresh air in, and this opening here is really large indeed. And you might wonder how I did that. So here you have a menu basically to close or open the shade or the roof itself, or both at the same time. There is sadly no button here in the top, so you have to do it all on the screen. To me, I think it's a little bit too complicated. Leah said it's fine. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old for that. I don't know. Let's check out the trunk or the boot. 460 liters, but what does it translate to? Let's take a look. And here we have this cover here on the top, and this one also fits in vertically underneath. And here between the arches, almost 1.40 meters. The length is here about 34 inches, 86 centimeters. And it looks not too big at first sight, but here you can lift up this, and then there's huge space underneath. Look at that here. This can even fit a trolley or something. And you can also lower the whole thing, and then it becomes actually quite spacious also in height, because then we are here in a height of 35 inches or almost 90 centimeters. And that's of course something for loading things through. Of course, you can lift that up again. That's then, especially easier when you have a hand free or something. So here then you can grab over that and fold it. Let's stay there. Maybe this one can be improved a little bit from the build quality there, from the fabric. So, and then the length here is about 1.70 meters or 67 inches. So yeah, I think you can even use that as a family, especially with the space underneath and so on. Yeah, what do you think about that? Let's start driving the Geely E5 and gonna cruise around here just a little bit to feel some city traffic environment and so on, and then of course head soon out to the German Autobahn, because when the car wants to succeed in Europe, it has to face the German Autobahn. This one here, the Max setup, also with the 19-inch wheels. They have multi-link rear axle, so base suspension and so on. There's no more elaborated one. Front-wheel drive, 218 horsepower. And soon, maybe, they will also offer all-wheel drive versions. The platform could house that. That would actually be no problem. At the moment, we are in the comfort mode. Steering is without the dead zone area in a general, like set up in a general soft way. General soft. So here, something is happening. And here, lane change in the city, a little bit of roundabout. And it's not a large car, doesn't feel too heavy. You feel that the suspension is rather set on a soft note, so the car leans a little bit into the corners. But so far the comfort is fine. Of course, now when we drive a little bit quicker, this will become more apparent. We can also, by the way, switch here the driving modes. Scroll down and you can, for example, here, go to the sport mode. The instrument panel also adjusts to that. It's a nice animation. So if you are in the normal mode versus the sport mode, if you pin down, you will still get the same power output, but there's like the pedal is more sensitive. So here, I think for normal everyday driving would be a little bit too nervous actually, but this is then when you really want to floor it out and give it all it can get. But most of the time you just keep it in normal driving mode, and then as I said, you also get the maximum power output if you really pin down the throttle. That's of course also like a safety thing in case you need to get onto the motorway and before another car or something like that. There's no lamination in the windows, which is also exaggerated for that segment, that price honestly. But the windows itself, they are not really thin. So let's see how they score then from the insulation on higher speeds. Let's do a first acceleration here from 50 to 100. Let's go. Oh, that's it. I think that's fine, So you don't need like an everyday performance car, and of course not at that price.
Maybe a button, yeah.
Yeah, this driving mode. I mean, not sure how often you would really change these driving modes than while driving, honestly. But the front-wheel drive, you may not sure if you saw anything, but it remained kind of calm. Of course, we have good grip in here, and especially at these very, very hot temperatures. So now,
it's getting hot from above here.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good that we have the manual shade. You know, of course, the closed roof version will always be even cooler than when it's so hot like today. 38 degrees Celsius meanwhile here, so it's towards the 100s Fahrenheit region. Yeah, so at least we have the cover there on top. We haven't rolled it closed at the moment because the second camera is attached there. At 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. Oh, by the way, here's like a sibling, technological sibling here, the Smart #1. On a technology basis, this is related here to this one and the Volvo EX30, whereas this one is size and price was more relatable to a Volvo EX40. You know, like the size above that, but not on a technology scale. At 160 miles an hour, that's fine, not too loud. And let's see here. Getting on the motorway. Got some traffic here, but we're trying to move somewhere where we have a little bit less traffic. Let's now accelerate out, move in there. Yeah, that's a little bit. So steering feel is sometimes a little bit vague when you change the lane, and the car was also shaking a little bit, you know. So the suspension is rather tuned on a soft note. I would say it's a little bit comparable to, I mean, at the moment we're also testing the Leapmotor C10, also somewhat in the equal price region. And the thing is always that the steering and suspension from the Chinese market vehicles, they're usually set on a softer note because they have a lot of going through in traffic, slow speed, and then a lot of bumps also in basement garage and so on. And then they tune it a little bit more European-alike for the European taste. Let's see, we can also set the cruise control here with OK. Now cruise control is set. And let's also see how we are being kept in the lane, or if there are like more corrections here in the steering. I can also increase the speed here or decrease the speed with my left thumb. And here traffic is queuing up a little bit now, decreasing. Now I feel when I move forward, I hit here this area a little bit more with my knee again, so that's a little bit close as I said earlier. Maybe a little bit too aggressive on the brake. There are some corrections happening here. We can also try to do an automated lane change as soon as we have some space. There's always a discussion of some manufacturers. Oh yeah, they're sometimes too aggressive the braking process from the adaptive cruise control. So here, for example, let's see. Speed too low, it says. So the automated lane change is only possible at a little bit higher speed. Let's see if we can soon do that. But here the difference is sometimes the manufacturers do it with tipping the indicator. Sometimes you have to hammer in the indicator completely. And here it's with putting it in completely actually. But yeah, that's one thing that you don't get. You do not get the most sophisticated assistance systems. It's of course something that maybe can be fixed later on also with over-the-air updates. But of course they also need like this kind of steep learning curve, because when you develop these assistance systems for the Chinese market, you cannot just take them over and copy them to European or North American market, because the situations and the roads and everything is always very different. That's the thing. Back to the installation here, about 120 kilometers an hour. I think that's still fine. You know, so it's not too loud, although we also have the sun blind open there in the top. And the general behavior of the car is calm and fine. It's only when you really push the vehicle, you know. Let's now drive a little bit faster even. 140. Yeah, now the wind noise is picking up. And let's now try to do an automated lane change. Oh, now it says speed too high. Let's see. Okay. Maybe here it does it at 100. Let's see. So cruise control in. There we go. It was okay. So that was fine. Yeah, so the automated lane change here works as well. And I think 100, 120 is a nice traveling speed. Above that, wind noise slowly pick up. Here we can accelerate out again. Is there still acceleration happening here from 100 to... Yeah, it's fine. 120, 130, 140. Yeah, we could even hold up with this Porsche Cayenne there. Yeah, sometimes that's why I like to deactivate most of the stuff here as well. Like when they have the lane keeping assist, it's too much intervention for my taste sometimes. It's doing the lane change here. Yeah, when I'm not that, you know, sporty, then it's fine. But when you move it a little bit sportier, then it becomes, let's say, a little bit unpleasant. So if you ask myself, or if you ask yourself, or if I ask myself, yeah, okay, we got that sorted out now. What's the main difference then to the existing, for example, German competitors? The German competitors set more tone on driving dynamics. You know, that it's more driving fun, suspension is a little bit firmer and so on. Here they really set the note on everyday usability. You know, you drive for shopping, you drive your kids to school and so on. And this is not the focus that it should be super sporty on a German Autobahn. But here at 120 km an hour is fine, as you don't accelerate it, let's say, too much, and you really, you know, let it lean into the corners and so on. And noise insulation is also fine. So considering the price performance, I think that's okay. If you expect more in driving dynamics, then it would be rather the established manufacturers. But yet at the same time, we have, for example, the seat cooling running all the time, very important in these very, very hot temperatures, so you can enjoy all these luxury features then again that you get for that exact price. Our consumption test for today at 39 degrees Celsius. So what is it actually? It must be in the 100s, so it's like 102 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, crazy temperatures. But for the electric vehicles, it's good because the AC doesn't consume so much energy, doesn't really need to heat up the battery, maybe start to cool it a little bit at some point, but the air is less dense, so that helps. So we have at 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour, topographic equalization, 16 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers or 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour would mean a real range of 425 kilometers or 265 miles here for the bigger battery. And at 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles per hour, 20 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers, that's 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour. Real range at that speed of 340 kilometers or 210 miles. Decent test results here. Of course, it will be different than in winter times and so on. So what do you get for that price is, you know, quite attractive exterior and a lot of interior features. Good comfort, cooled seats, all the things, very well built and so on. A lot of space as well. What do you not get is a driving dynamic behavior, which you can compare to the existing manufacturers. So especially the Germans, they drive in a more dynamic way. This is what you don't get. If you primarily drive in the city and so on, and you don't drive too high speeds on the motorway, maybe you don't care. If you do more motorway driving and so on, then the established manufacturers offer better driving dynamics and also more sophisticated assistance systems. Of course, they will still keep working on that. So it's also the thing that it doesn't recharge that quick. It's not like this, hey, long-haul motorway machine, then you quickly go to a high voltage fast charger and so on, and you keep going again. This is more this everyday driving live car, which you don't like always drive like 10 hours to, you know, the next country and so on, you know. So yeah, overall I think a very attractive package for the price, especially with all the interior features. But even more interesting, of course, to know what you get and what you don't get for that price packaging. But yeah, definitely more pressure on the existing manufacturers. I would like to know from you what you think. Will they be successful here or not as the Geely core brand in Europe? And now you can check out some of the siblings or maybe the competition